Hey, it's Regina here from Tarot and Time in Kent, Connecticut, and I'm here to talk to you about the month of December using tarot and astrology for everyday living. Now, I want to jump into the month and talk about all the retrogrades that have been going on, and I'm not here to do this to scare you. I'm here to do this to show you that relief is in sight. We've been in some wacky times. We have had a lot of watery energy going on for the past few weeks. We've had a lot of retrogrades going on in 2025 in general. And as we wind up the year, I feel like things get more intense as we get to the end of things. And a lot of these planets are getting to the end of degrees. We're really in pretty wild times. And for one thing, we know that 2025 in numerology equals the number 9 when we add up all the digits and get one number. Well, the cycles run in 9. So we're finishing out as a world, as a global community, ending of a 9-year cycle. Just pretty crazy. 9 years ago was 2017. So this is interesting. We're going to go into a 1 year, a year of newness. And a 1 year is related to the Magician card. So we know that the Magician is the alchemist of the tarot deck, and we know that everything and anything is possible in a 1 year. Now let's go over, also it's going to be, we're leaving the year of the wood snake in Chinese astrology and entering the year of the fire horse. We have tons of planets going into fiery positions. Not tons of planets. We have 2 planets moving into Aries, but they're heavy hitter planets. So there's going to be a lot of fire energy as Neptune moves into Aries and Saturn moves into Aries. So let's go through this one by one so that you can make the most of it, so that you can know that there's hope in sight. Now, I have a lot of people coming in for readings that are just confused. They don't know which way is up anymore. There's a lot of emotions running high. The world's crazy. And we know, I keep trying to talk people through, like, you are not going to feel the same by the time we get to spring because there's so much planetary changes happening. And I know that's hard to believe sometimes, but as you watch it over the years, and that's why I always say, like, it's a lifetime study to become an astrologer. I'm still early on and I'm like almost 10 years in, but you have to watch it. You have to watch and see, and you never know, people tell you how it's going to feel, but it's going to affect each person differently. So let's talk about the retrogrades that are going on and where we see the hope coming in. Okay. So the first retrograde that affects us very personally, because it's a personal planet, is Mercury retrograde. And Mercury was retrograded from November 9th to November 29th. And you've heard me talk about this so many times now, but basically Mercury was moving along, right? And Mercury, the planet of communication, the messenger, it rules roadways and pathways, it rules merchants, and it rules the trickster in its shadow. So Mercury's moving along, gets to November 9th, then it backwards in degrees. So it gets to 6 degrees Sagittarius, and then it backs up to 20 degrees of Scorpio. Last time we were at 20 degrees of Scorpio was October 21st. So we're revisiting all that happened. You've heard me talk about how Scorpio rules not only the reproductive organs, but it rules the systems of elimination. And Scorpio is associated with death and rebirth. So I was looking at this Mercury retrograde as a chance to get rid of old grudges, old stuff that maybe we were carrying around that we don't even realize we're carrying around. It's in our subconscious, and we start to see clues of that during this Mercury retrograde. So see what was coming up and purge it. And I was talking about personally, I just kept a long notepad of I saw this person, this happened, this feeling came up, this surfaced, and then burning that list later and having a good purge. Okay. So Mercury, it ends on November 29th, the retrograde, but it really won't be into new territory. It won't be into past 6 degrees of Sagittarius until December 16th. So we're going to feel it through the month of December. Now, this is the third swipe. So we got the first swipe when we got up to November 9th, then we got the second swipe as it moved back, and then it went direct, and now we get the third swipe. So third swipe over everything that's been happening since October 21st. Take advantage of this as the great purge to release the old and move into freedom, because that's what Sagittarius wants. Okay, so things lighten up this month. Now, if no major purchases until at least November 29th, but since we're still in its shadow, December 16th is ideal. Okay, now the next planet. This is where more relief is in sight. Even though Pluto retrograde is over, it ended October 13th. Pluto will not be into new territory, which will be 4 degrees of Aquarius, until February 10th. Okay, so we're kind of reviewing everything that's been going on since May. And now we're going to move into new times as we move into February 10th. So that's a good thing. Pluto wants to bring change, wants to bring power. Remember, it rules other people's money. It rules sex. It's hanging out in Aquarius. So you can see where Aquarius is in your chart to see where the change is happening. Now, we currently have Saturn retrograde. Well, actually, that's not true because this ended November 27th. So we're just coming out of the Saturn retrograde. Well, Saturn is responsibility. It's our career. It's our reputation, our long-term standing in the world. You've heard me call Saturn the building inspector of the zodiac. He's actually a builder. People think he wants to destroy our plans and our life, give us a hard time. But Saturn really wants to help us build it so that we can build properly what works for us so it can withstand time. Okay, so Saturn retrograded July 13th to November 27th, and it was 1 degree Aries back to 25 degrees Pisces, and it won't be in new territory till March 3rd of 2026. So we've already got hope here. We've got December 16th, Mercury retrograde wears off. February 10th, Pluto retrograde wears off. March 3rd, Saturn retrograde wears off. Then we move into Neptune retrograde, which ends this month in December. Now remember, Neptune's the great healer, but Neptune wants to break karmic cycles, and its shadow is illusion and delusion. Okay, but its strength is vision and creativity and healing. It rules secrets in the subconscious mind, and Neptune will be in fresh new territory in April 23rd. So this is intense. Like, Neptune does not come back to Pisces, its own sign, in our lifetime. It takes 164 years to go around the zodiac. Last time that Neptune was here is 1861 to 1875, American Civil War, abolition of slavery, and when the kineograph, I guess it's called, which was a precursor to the modern film projector, was invented. So we're in very interesting times. Historically, when we look back to when Neptune was last in Aries, there was major things going on. So we will be in this new territory in April. So this can give us hope. Things are shifting. Things are changing. There's a lot changing. So we're kind of coming to the end of a lot of things right now. Now, currently, we still have Uranus, the oh wow planet, retrograded, and it started in September 6th, and it goes until February 23rd. Now, it was at 1 degree Gemini when it started its retrograde. So Uranus had just moved into, Uranus is technology. And remember, Uranus and Neptune and Saturn and Pluto, these are all the generational planets. These are the planets that affect mass groups of people. So Uranus moved into Gemini, where it hadn't been since 1942, when World War II ended, when the first computer was invented. And it takes 84 years to return to a sign. So it's leaving Taurus, right? It was heading into Gemini. And let's see, the last time it was in Taurus was 1935 to 1942, which was when the Great Depression happened and World War II was going on. So interesting times. So Uranus went from 1 degree of Gemini, then it backed up into Taurus again, and then it's going to come out and be back into Gemini, and it will go into 2 degrees Gemini, which is new territory, on May 22nd. Okay, so we see more hope. December, February, March, April, May. Now we also have Jupiter retrograding November 11th through March 11th. It's going through the sign of Cancer, its best placement. So it goes from 25 degrees Cancer to 15 degrees Cancer. Last time it was in Cancer was 2013 to 2014, and it'll be in new territory come June. So really and truly, if we're looking for shifts and we're looking to feel differently, it's going to start to happen December, February, March, April, May, June. Okay, going into a 1 year. So I hope that gives you some hope. Okay, that we're kind of reviewing everything in retrogrades. We got a taste of newness as some of these planets dipped into new signs, and then it backed up into the signs it had already been in. And we're kind of reviewing, going over things. We had all this Mercury retrograde energy of purging, and then we're going to be in fresh territory. So hold on. Okay, and let's jump into the details of the month of December. Now, December's full of a Gemini full moon, Sagittarius new moon. We've got a bunch of what I saw was a lot of Mars energy and a lot of Saturn energy. So there's intensity. And like I said, things get intense as we get to the end of things, and we're ending out a 9-year cycle. Now, I think about 9 years as I often compare it to looking out at a garden and kind of looking at praise myself for how well this grew and what I've accomplished here. Those roses look beautiful, but some things need to be yanked out, and you're really going to be able to see what needs to be pulled. And I really think you're going to be able to feel. It's interesting finishing out a year of a snake, finishing out with so much water trines going on. So there's a lot of feeling going on, and we're going to be able to sense it's almost like what's still in our energy field that needs to go. Sometimes we think that just because our body moved on from something that it's over, but really it can be stored in our energy field. I think that's why psychics can pick up so much of your past stuff, because it's still kind of lingering around you. It's in your energy field. So this is a good time to purge. Now, people ask me, how do I purge? Well, I find the best way for me, maybe because I'm a Gemini moon, is I like to write things down. I like to see it. I like to feel it and express it. And then I often like to burn things because I do have a lot of Scorpio planets. And so sometimes a visual burning something is really incredibly healing and releasing. And you could also rip that paper up and flush it down the toilet, whatever works for you. But I find ceremonies often makes it stick. Okay. All right, now we're going to jump into this month. I have tons of notes here, and let's get right in there. So we start off where we left off last month, which is December 1st, Monday, December 1st, where the moon will be in the sign of Aries. It's going to move into Taurus late in the evening, 10:13 p.m. And we have a lot of fire. We're heading to a full moon. It's going to be a full Gemini moon on Thursday. So we know things are intense. Now, Mars is squaring, making an abrasive action. Mars is at 22 degrees Sag around the beginning of the month. And it's squaring the mutable signs in the planets in the mutable sign of Pisces, which are Saturn and Neptune. So there's going to be, Mars wants to push ahead, and Neptune, rules all the fog, and it rules drugs and alcohol, and it rules creativity. So you could be taking some action and creativity, but Saturn's there, and Saturn is the authoritarian. So there's an intensity, and you may find that you're trying to push ahead, but maybe you can't. And there's also a lot of water. There's a lot of planets in water signs. Jupiter's in Cancer. Mercury's still hanging out in the sign of Scorpio, the deep water sign. And then these 2 planets in Pisces. So we have this grand water trine going on. It's going to make things emotional, but there's a lot of creative healing energy. So be aware of this full moon, be cautious of this full moon. And so let's see. Monday the 1st, good time to take action, but without pushing, seeing where it flows with ease. On Tuesday the 2nd, we have the moon in the beautiful sign of Taurus, the Venus ruled sign. So enjoy the harmony. Then on the 3rd, the moon heads into the sign of Gemini in the evening, 9:48 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it's going to be conjunct Uranus, that is pretty close to Gemini. It's in the late degrees of Taurus. So the moon's going to be conjunct the oh wow planet, which is retrograding. And it's going to be opposite Mercury in the watery sign of Scorpio, in the late degrees of Scorpio. So there's a lot of psychic energy. There may be some feelings that come up. There may be some information that you feel. Write it down, observe it, and see if there's truth to it as we move into the full Gemini moon on Thursday, December 4th. This is a 13-degree Gemini full moon at 6:14 p.m. And it's right there together. One side of it's got Venus and Sagittarius hanging out. So Venus close to the sun is always a lovely thing. And then on the other side is Mars, the planet of action. It's kind of interesting because Mars is written as the symbol for men, Venus is women, and the sun is sitting right there in between the two of them. Now, across from it is the moon in Gemini. So there's going to be a lot of things. Gemini is about communication and speaking your truth. Mercury, the ruler of Gemini, is just coming out of retrograde. So it's been reviewing a lot of things. So we still want to be a little bit careful with our words because Mercury, it's deep and it's in that water sign of Scorpio still. And sometimes the words, I have Mercury in Scorpio and I have to be careful. Sometimes my words can really hurt. And so we have to be aware of what we're speaking, but we definitely want to speak from value because Venus is involved, okay, and harmony. Now, the sun's in Sag, right? The moon's in Gemini, and Sagittarius ruler Jupiter's in retrograde. So there's a lot of retrograde affecting this full moon, and there's squares with Saturn and, and Neptune. And so it's a little, just have to go easy, especially with Uranus involved, and Uranus can throw in unexpected things. So I would kind of lay low, take it easy. There's a lot of water energy, get some rest, do some writing, and avoid drama. Okay. Now we move into Friday, and the moon will be opposite Mars as it gets into the later degrees of Gemini. And so the moon is your soft feminine power, intuition, nurturing energy, opposite the pedal to the metal planet Mars, which is hanging out in the fire sign of Sagittarius. So there may be a little bit of a push and a pull. The moon enters Cancer at 8:54 p.m. So, Cancer's rules the home and nurturing. So it's either a great night to stay in and have a great home night, or maybe you go out and just have a beautiful meal. Now, because Gemini is a social sign, right? So there's some social energy there too. Now on the 6th, the moon continues in Cancer. We pretty much have a Cancer weekend. So Cancer, again, ruled by the moon. In astrology, it's the 4th house, the house of nurturing. I think of it as the house of the kitchen, and just like food energy, nurturing energy, comfortable energy, and kind of like mom energy, okay? But great for house parties, great for great meals, and just some soft, comfy energy. On the 7th, the moon will move on Sunday the 7th into Leo later at night, 9:48 p.m. Super emotional with all these planets in water, the moon in its own sign of Cancer. The moon is going to be conjunct Jupiter in Cancer. Jupiter makes everything bigger. So it's either going to be a beautiful, wonderful time or it's going to be an emotional mess. Okay. So see where you're at and nurture yourself accordingly. And don't get too hard on yourself. It's an intense week. Okay. Now let's pull a couple cards for this week ahead. And got a couple different decks here. The Star Tarot, which is a nice Christmas time one. Let's get one there. And I also have the Yuletide Tarot, which I love. Now, the online store is finally launched. I've been talking about it for what feels like forever. It's finally launched. And so I'm going to be starting to put some of these decks on there. I know the Star Tarot is on there already. I'm waiting for the Yuletide to come in. It should be here any day. So you'll see the Yuletide going up on the website too. I have a Season of the Witch Oracle, which is on the website also. And let's see what your cards are for this full moon week. And the first card is the Two of Wands. It's a pretty cool version of the Two of Wands with like this beams of light coming out of the zodiac wheel. So 2 of Fire, 2 relationship number, Wands, passion, drive. And I hope that you were able to find some relief in the opening comments of this video about how hope is in sight. The Queen of Candles is here, and she is the Queen of Wands, and she is sitting by that fireplace and she's enjoying things. I think, doesn't she have a hot water bottle on her? I think she might be holding a hot water bottle. And that pretty much sums up how I feel about the weekend. She's just kind of like cozy and enjoying and resting. And that is such a Cancer-like thing, hot water bottle. So make sure that you take care of yourself and make sure you enjoy some quiet time. Enjoy the dimly lit lights of Christmas time. I think that's some of my favorite parts is just all the twinkling lights, and take some quiet time and just enjoy that. Especially if you're the person that's hosting or having a ton of people over, make sure you're getting enough of that downtime. Now, you've got the ceremony card, and it says, I call upon those heralds of winter, dimming light for better sight. Hear thy praise spilling from thy lips, a spell I'll cast for thy spirits in me. So, a ceremony, which is what we were talking about. I'm going to flip this card over because it's got a little nudity in it. And YouTube doesn't like that. Okay, so it's a ceremony card, and I almost feel like this is a ceremony here with just some self-care next to a relationship number 2. And, sometimes the relationship with ourselves is the first one to be overlooked. So taking time for that, having your own ceremonies, your own quiet, lovely times before any big celebrations this month, and remembering the watery energy of the week. And so sometimes the ceremony is just a hot water bottle on your belly in front of a fireplace and enjoying the dimly lit joy of Christmas lights. All right, so let's go into the next week. And the next week is December 8th through December 14th. Now, let's see here. December 8th. The sun is going to be square Saturn. So the sun is in Sagittarius, which is a mutable sign. So it makes a 90-degree angle with the other mutable signs. And we know we have Saturn and Neptune up there in the sign of Pisces, finishing up their time there. So there's going to be a lot of tests of faith and commitment. And there may be, some things that you want to do. Sun's your ego, and Saturn is the building inspector of the zodiac. So there may be some things that you want to push ahead to do, but you may hit some roadblocks. And just keep, if it's really, really what you want to be doing, then keep at it and keep checking the boxes and keep moving forward. But on the note of moving forward, remember that Mars is square Saturn, and Mars wants to move fast, and Saturn's like the law. So you want to be careful. This is running a lot of the month, basically December 1st through December 17th. The sun is also square Saturn, and there's a lot of fire. So don't push too hard. So there's a fine line between like pushing or staying committed and not letting these like tests and I hate to say the tests, but I don't like that the universe is testing us, but the things, the obstacles that come up, like, is this really what you want? Are you determined moving forward? Then keep at it. But if you are just, angry or pushing ahead and just like being determined and, stubborn, I think is the word, then be careful and go a little bit slower because you don't need Saturn showing up in the form of the law to show you who's actually in charge. Okay, so take it slow. Now, Tuesday the 9th, the moon will continue to be in Leo and it's going to be square Uranus. So, try to go with the flow. Uranus is unpredictable, so you just never know. There's going to be a lot of trines with the planets in Sagittarius. So the moon's in Leo, fire sign. The sun, Mercury, Mars are in Sag. So they're trining each other. It's just a lot of fire. All right. So use it properly. Now, on December 10th, Neptune finally moves direct. And even though it's still going to be in the sign of Pisces, its own sign, remember, it's finishing up its last little bit of time there, and it's going to get more intense as it finishes up its time there, as everything does as we get to the later degrees of things. Neptune is going to go direct that day, and the fog is going to start to lift, okay? Now, Neptune, again, rules secrets, things coming up to the surface. And, when I talk about ruling, it's like, yes, Neptune rules fog, but also rules vision because it's both extremes, okay? So we have the fog starting to lift. Hopefully, any secrets that need to come out will come up and out, okay? And maybe we'll start to be able to see ourselves more clearly. The moon will be in Virgo on Wednesday the 10th, and Virgo is the sign right across from Pisces. So there's a lot of Neptune energy on the 10th. And even though the fog is starting to lift, it's still very foggy. So keep that in mind. Now, what do we have going on here? The 11th, last quarter moon in Virgo, older and wiser. So see what you've learned over this last moon cycle. And Virgo wants to get everything in order and it likes to analyze. So what have you learned? Now, Mercury returns to the sign of Sagittarius because it's coming out of the retrograde and it's coming back over that third swoop of everything that's been going on since October 21st. So what have you learned? I have this picture of a suitcase here and it's like, is there are you carrying too much baggage? Are you letting yourself release some of this, right? We're finishing out a 9-year numerology. We're going into fresh territory next year. We are coming out of the great purge of this Mercury retrograde through the sign of Scorpio, all the deep emotions into Sagittarius, releasing and moving forward lighter. So what have you learned and what have you let go of as you are becoming older and wiser? Now, the moon will stay in Virgo until 11:04 a.m. on Friday the 12th when it moves into the harmonious Venus-ruled sign of Libra. So we'll have a Libra weekend. So it's a great social time. It's a really great time to do some Christmas shopping because Venus rules like all the beautiful things. And Mercury is now direct that rules merchants. So I would definitely get out and about. Do your Christmas shopping. Come to our shop in Kent, Connecticut. I think you'll love it. And now you can check out our online store that is officially launched. Just go to tarotintime.com, THYME. We're adding things continuously. And, we're trying to keep things as conscious clothing and fair trade and small companies and all that. We strive for that. We make a few mistakes along the way, but we strive for that. Okay, now on Sunday the 14th, the moon is in Libra until 10:51 p.m. when it moves into Scorpio. And the moon will be Well, then it will square Jupiter, and it's squaring Pluto. There's a lot of squares going on. Mars is square Neptune, and it's easy to lose your way. Okay. And I put this picture of driving through fog. It's stay grounded, don't give up. Things are foggy, but it will start to clear. Okay. Now let's pull a couple cards for this week ahead, see what we've got going on here. One from the Star Tarot. Haven't looked at any of these yet. And one from the Yuletide. And let's give you also the Seasons of the Witch Oracle. And let's see what we've got here. The World. What a great card. What a beautiful card. So this is Capricorn energy, last card of the major arcanas. It's ruled by Saturn. And I love this card. Wow. Okay, so we know Saturn's finishing up its time in Pisces. We're coming to some closures of things. This is a card of success, and it's a lovely card to see here. You also have Knight of Gifts, which I think is a Knight of Pentacles. And I often find the Knight of Pentacles takes a while to show up. So here he is, kind of sitting under that tree with a bonsai tree next to him. Okay, Knight of Gifts. And I was talking about going shopping this weekend. Okay, what else do we have? Darkest Hour. There in the void of thy darkness swells the shadow of the soul, swallowing the wickedness into the blackness of its wholeness. Darkest Hour. Okay, so I think we're coming into the conclusion of things is what I'm getting. And the Knight of Gifts is sitting in the middle. So, you know, a lot of people have changed their shopping plans for this holiday, keeping it simple. And I like that the bonsai tree's there. And this looks like a tree also. And there's a whole bunch of trees in the background there. And it's almost like giving the gift of nature or giving the gift of just experiences, spending time in nature. And I know a lot of people are worried about money right now because things are so uncertain, and I get it, believe me. And so there's kind of some conclusions here, maybe shifting how you're doing it. Maybe you shop a little more simply. Maybe you are making it a point to shop with small businesses and buy more eco-friendly products with kind of a nature vibe here, okay? The Darkest Hour makes me feel like that idea of having to give more than you can, that kind of thing, that's coming to an end here. You're starting to see how to take care of yourself and how to show love for others in more simple ways. So, very lovely cards for the week ahead. Now, let's go into the next week, which is December 15th through Sunday, December 21st. So, our last week before Christmas, and we start off on Monday, December 15th with the moon in Scorpio. So there's a lot of planets in water signs, and we know that there's like a grand water trine going on most of the month that's going to make us very emotional, but it can make us very creative, and it can make us super psychic. Okay, so we want to pay attention to feeling. You always hear me saying this because I think that it gets so easily avoided or overlooked or disregarded as who knows, what the watery feeling's trying to tell us, but please take note of it. Now, Mars, the planet of action, is going to leave the fire sign of Sag, and it's going to enter Capricorn, and this is a really good placement for Mars, and this is about discipline and drive and long-term success. So, calms down a little bit after leaving the fire sign of Sag. Sag can be all over the place. I'm a Sag. I can say that. We can be a bunch of different, circus tents that we got going on. So we get a little bit more grounded as Mars moves into Capricorn. It's going to stay there till January 23rd. Now, Remember, this is a new moon week. So we're heading on the 19th, which is Friday, to a Sagittarius new moon. So Tuesday the 16th, the moon continues in the sign of Scorpio. It'll be opposite Uranus in the later degrees of Taurus. And so there's a lot of emphasis on money, your money, other people's money. It's a good time to get your bills paid, but also to plan for anything, get some money into savings for anything unpredictable. Now, Wednesday the 17th, the moon is in Scorpio until 11:38 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then the moon moves into Sag. Now it's heading towards its new moon. There's going to be 4 planets in Sagittarius at this point. So we've got the sun still in the late degrees of Sag together with the moon, together with Mars in the early degrees of Capricorn. We've also got Venus still in Sagittarius. So Venus wants to go and have a good time. And Mercury in Sagittarius, and Mercury, you have to be careful about how you use your words, because sometimes Mercury and Sag might regret what it says later. So lots of fire energy going on. And do we have any other planets in fire signs? I don't think so, because those planets are right there on the edge of Pisces. So nothing else. We have Chiron hanging out in Aries, our wound point. But lots of fire in Sagittarius energy there on the 17th. So spicy. So be careful about too spicy, but enjoy the fun. Now, Thursday the 18th, the moon continues in the sign of Sag. It's going to get close to Venus, so enjoy the beauty and harmony on the 18th. As we move into the new moon on December 19th, Friday, this is at 8:43 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it's at 28 degrees of Sagittarius, which we've got some other stuff hanging out at almost 28 degrees. We've got Saturn hanging out at 25 degrees Pisces and Neptune at 29 degrees Pisces. So remember, that's squaring each other. Sag is a mutable sign, Pisces is a mutable sign, and they make a 90-degree angle. So as much as Sag wants to be carefree and it wants to be really optimistic and sometimes not grounded about things, it's squaring the planet of responsibility and then the planet of illusion and delusion. So my advice to you is envision the way you want things to go. Imagine things working out, and play in that playland of all the things that could happen, and allow, once you see the vision, allow Saturn to bring it to you. Now, this new moon, like I said, is together with Venus, which is a beautiful thing, but it's also very close to Mars. And so the sun and moon are right in between Venus and Mars. So just be careful for confrontation with people. We don't need any of that. Now, the moon enters Capricorn at 11:53 p.m. on Friday. So right after the new moon, a little bit later in the evening, it moves into the grounded sign of Capricorn. And on Saturday, the 20th, it continues in Capricorn. And it's going to be together with Mars, because we know Mars is there in Capricorn. And let's see what else. 12:20, Venus square Saturn. Venus at 25 degrees Sagittarius is an exact square with Saturn, 25 degrees of Pisces. Be wise in love and money. So, anytime we have any form of Neptune, right? Neptune itself or the sign Pisces, we know things could be foggy, and we know there's a chance for disillusionment. And so we want to be careful about major purchases or major decisions in love there on Saturday the 20th. Now, Saturday the 20th is the last day of Sagittarius season, so enjoy the fun as the sun moves into the cardinal earth sign of Capricorn. Capricorn is going to push forward winter. There's a lot of oomph involved pushing forward winter. And so stay determined, whatever it is that you're working on, that vision that you might have caught during the Sagittarius new moon. Stay determined, stay focused. Look at those goats climbing a tree. I mean, can you believe that they can even do that? That's how determined they are. So the sun enters Capricorn in the morning on Sunday, the 21st. The moon will be opposite Jupiter in the watery sign of Cancer, making everything bigger. And the sun, we talked about that, conjunct Mars and Venus. Okay, so now let's pick a couple cards for this week, the last week before we head into Christmas season, Hanukkah season. I really don't know much about Hanukkah. Remember, I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness. I don't really know much about any of the holidays. So I try to understand what everyone's feeling regarding their holidays, but I really have no clue. I think the only reason that I even have learned anything about holidays is from having a retail store. So bear with me here. I just never adjusted to the holidays. It was just, I always feel like I'm kind of like an onlooker looking in at other people's traditions. And even raising children, I was divorced most of my kids' early years. And so they spent most of their time with their father celebrating in a huge Italian manner. And I would just get a few days off. So yeah, maybe someday that will change. Maybe someday when I have grandchildren, that'll change. All right, so now let's see what your cards are for the week here. And your first card is the Seven of Pentacles. This is from the Star Tarot, which is so pretty. Thank you, Ginger from Bohemian Gypsy in Florida. You mailed this to me one year as a gift, and it was a really great gift because I had never worked with this deck. I'm not sure how you knew that, but I never had, and it's really beautiful. So Seven of Pentacles, seven to me is about like overcoming obstacles, and pentacles is anything of value. And so something's building here. Usually Seven of Pentacles almost looks like somebody working on a compost pile. So we know something is building. I love all those horses in the sky. We know we're heading into the fire horse New Year, Chinese New Year. So something of value building, lots of love in the heart, a lot of joy. And it kind of reminds me of what I was saying about getting that vision, because those horses up there just feel like a vision. And so getting clear on what your vision is with that Sagittarius new moon. Sagittarius, you've heard me call the time traveler, and we can get glimpses of things. And once we get that glimpse, then I feel like we can actually work towards it and attain it. So you've got this vision, and now the Pentacles comes in, and we can actually move towards attaining that, especially as Mars moves into Capricorn, the sun moves into Capricorn. Here's the Mary Lude. I'm not familiar with what that is, but it's card number 2, which is the High Priestess. And so we have, it's interesting, she's wearing like this mask. Let's see if the book tells us anything about that, but we know it's watery Cancer energy with the High Priestess showing up. She's ruled by the moon. She trusts feelings. She trusts intuition. She trusts her inner voice. The book says, encountering mystery is never an easy process. What is organized by the Magus is rooted here by the Queen of Winter, the physical embodiment of winter, the Mari Lud. She is the High Priestess, the Bone Queen. She threatens to simultaneously tear you into 1,000 pieces while also carrying you across the abyss of mystery and towards the light of spring. The Mary Lud is a Welsh midwinter custom of Buridic battle, where the skull of a horse atop a white robe is animated and carried from house to house and pub to pub. She is paradoxically fabulous and terrifying all at the same time. I love that. She's the divine feminine, terrifying and fabulous. Love it. She stands at a liminal time, and her undead guise, she sings of mystery that was old when the world was new. She carries a child upon her back across the abyss of the mysterious, and in doing so reveals something of its nature. The Mary Lud is a unifying force that binds all opposites together in a way that coalesces their energy into a cohesive whole. She does this from a position of deep feeling and balance. This is a deeply ethereal card that deals primarily with the subtle and often spiritual forces at play in one's life and situation. Okay, I like this. I like the idea of a custom here, a Welsh custom, and I like that it's fabulous and terrifying. And I think our dreams sometimes are fabulous and terrifying. And there's a lot of watery energy going on this month in general, and then with this water card here. And so don't let the fear of your dreams stop you from accomplishing them. You have the candle magic card that says, finger the spine and caress thy lips, light the spell spilling from your grip. Candle magic. So this is also a 2. You got 2 2s and a 7. It looks like a labyrinth there. And it's kind of almost like another custom coming in. Follow your dreams. Follow your intuition, as it's going to be really strong, especially this week. Now we're moving into our Christmas week. And this is December 22nd through December 28th. Now on Monday, December 22nd, the moon is in Capricorn until 10:52 a.m. when it moves into the air sign of Aquarius. And we know that hanging out in the early degrees of Aquarius is Pluto, the planet of transformation and change. So there's a lot of intensity on Monday, the 22nd. And be aware that if you're making holiday plans, holiday travel, all that kind of things, just be open to the fact that things could change quickly. But also know there could be a lot of fun spending time with friends because Aquarius rules large groups of people. Now, on Tuesday, the 23rd, Venus is going to be square Neptune. And we were talking last week about anytime Neptune is involved, whether Neptune itself or the sign Pisces is involved, we're going to have fog. Venus is squaring Neptune, which is a harder aspect. This is not the time to elope. This is not the time to make major decisions in love. This is the time to look at what kind of cycles we keep perpetuating regarding our love relationships and regarding money. Okay, so look at what's coming up to the surface because Neptune's at its very end of Pisces, its own sign, where it will not return again for 164 years. So this is the only time we're going to experience this in our life. And Venus is squaring. So it's interesting to see what comes up, but don't make any rash decisions. And it's easy to want to make rash decisions when the moon's in Aquarius. Now, Tuesday the 23rd, okay, so it stays in Aquarius and we move into the 24th and the moon will be in Aquarius until 8:09 p.m. and then it will move into Pisces. Venus moves into the sign of Capricorn where it will hang out until January 17th. This is all about long-term success, long-term plans. Now, what did I write down here? Oh, this is Christmas Eve, right? So Venus enters Capricorn 11:26 a.m. on Christmas Eve, and Capricorn's all about traditions. Capricorn is all about your reputation, your family life, your long-term success, and it also rules your career. So I wrote down tradition, family jewels. So maybe if you have some, you wear some this on Christmas Eve. Childhood Christmas items. Okay, so there may be some nostalgia there. Good time to look at things like that or look at old pictures from past Christmases. And the moon is going to be square Uranus. So I wrote down keep it small. Moon square Uranus. Okay, maybe keep it small. That's interesting that I wrote that. Okay, I'm not sure exactly what I meant there, keep it small, but I know Uranus rules large groups and the moon can be very emotional. So keep that in mind. Emotions run big, maybe have a small Christmas Eve gathering, and the sun is still hanging out between Venus and Mars. Interesting. Now, Christmas Day, the moon will be in the watery sign of Pisces. And we know that Neptune and Saturn are hanging out in Pisces, finishing up their time there. The moon is going to be square Mercury. So there's going to be a lot there about like conversation and emotions squaring each other. And it's going to be trine Jupiter, and Jupiter's hanging out in Cancer, and Jupiter's going to make things bigger. And so you might find that there's a lot of like reminiscing energy, okay, reminiscing about childhood. But I would recommend that before letting it get too intense, I would like maybe make plans to watch a movie, or some people go to the movies on Christmas. That might be a really good thing. Pisces, I'm pretty sure, rules the big screen, and it rules things like movies. So that might be a good use because it's going to get so emotional with all this water energy. Remember, there's a grand water trine going on. So it's a good time to enjoy making new memories. It's a good time to reminisce about old times to a point, but avoid heavy conversations. Okay, you just don't want to go there. It's just going to be too much. Mercury is square Saturn and Neptune. So the sun square Mercury, and the Mercury itself is square Saturn and Neptune. It's just a lot. Please be kind. Please go easy. Please don't be afraid to say, I got to step away and take a little downtime. Okay, Pisces rules retreating back. So make sure that you take care of yourself on this holiday. Now, Friday the 26th, the moon is still in Pisces. And so pretty much a lot of what I said for Thursday applies to Friday. Then we move into the weekend, and the moon will be in Aries at 3:02 a.m. on Saturday the 27th. And this is the first quarter moon in the sign of Aries, so it's a good time to get some things started. And the moon is square the sun, and it's square Mars, and it's square Venus. So there's a lot of square energy going on. Abrasive aspect. So, I kind of get with the moon in Aries, it's like I almost see you driving away from your holiday experiences and just kind of having a new take on life and a new idea about how you're going to do things differently, how you're going to redefine yourself. That was the vibe that I got. Sunday the 28th is a really good travel day. The moon is going to be trine Mercury and Sagittarius. It's a little bit clearer energy. So I know like a lot of people will be on the road Sunday the 28th, but it's a better day for that. So let's pick some cards for this Christmas week and see what you need to know here. So here's one. Oh, I guess you're getting two from the Star Tarot. You're going to get another one here from Yule Tide. No, you're getting two. All right. I thought I was in charge, but I guess not. Okay, and a Season of the Witch Yule Oracle. So let's see. Got a bunch of cards here. Your first one is Temperance. And Temperance is Jupiter energy, Sagittarius energy, Jupiter ruled. And this is basically the angel that meets us on the other side, that gives us a broader perspective of things. Temperance is also often said to be like dipping your toe into new waters, but we know that Jupiter makes everything bigger. Interesting how there's like two roads leading to this place. And so just enjoy the beauty of coming together with the people that you love for the holidays, these roads joining. The Emperor is showing up here. The Aries energy, he's the boss, he's in charge. I love how he's just kind of blending into the earth there. So you got two major arcanas going on here for Christmas week. Temperance, luck, blessings, expansion, the Emperor, the boss, but not going to rush because the Emperor is card number 4. He kind of pauses before he makes big decisions. The Child, which is the Fool card. So 3 major arcana so far showing up. And there's that child having that, still in that magical world of believing. This is Aquarius energy. We know we have the moon in Aquarius at the beginning of the week. So 3 major arcana. So there's a lot of intensity, but it can also be a beautiful thing. 7 of Candles. This is often called, this is called the Seven of Wands. And he's kind of up there on the stage and all these candles in front of him. It almost looks like he's going to put on a performance. I was saying go to the movies on Christmas. Seven of Candles is just when there's a lot going on. Okay. But he's kind of, all the attention's on him. So maybe putting your attention on some theatrical performance or something like that, just to kind of take away the intensity of where the conversation could go. Ringing the bells. Card number 30 from the Season of the Witch Oracle. It says, ring thy bell to cast them out, ring thy bell and dance about. Swirls the sounds, amidst the winds, nowhere to hide, for all will ring. And, you know, I have a little bell at the store that I use to clear sometimes when I'm burning sage, and I'll ring the bell. And so I think of the bells as very like telling, like I love bells on the door so you can hear when the door opens, and ringing thy bells to cast them out so it can clear. Sound can clear. We know that. And so after this intense week, make sure that you do enough clearing. Now, some ways to clear. Yeah, bell sound can do it. Sound vibrations can do it. Maybe just some really great loud music on your ride home. But also you can sage and you can work, especially if you have people in your house. And you can use water. Water is a great clearing energy. Everything from a swim to a shower to a tub to a hot tub. Okay, so enjoy that. Now, we're moving into our final week of 2025, final week of our 9-year, moving into a 1 year next year. Final week, lot of finality in 2025 and a lot of newness in 2026. We'll talk more about that later. The week starts on Monday, December 29th. And really, we're just going to go to New Year's Eve. And then we'll talk about January in the next video because that's a whole nother conversation. So we're going to finish up the year with Monday the 29th. The moon is in Aries until 6:57 a.m. when it moves into the beautiful Venus-ruled sign of Taurus. Enjoy today. There's a lot of harmony. There's a lot of trines with the planets in the sign of Capricorn. Trines are harmonious energy, and so make the most of that. On Monday the 29th. Tuesday the 30th, the moon continues in the sign of Taurus, and it's going to be conjunct Uranus in the sign of Taurus. And so this is a great day to like spend time with friends. If you're visiting and you get to see old friends, it's a great day for it. Just be prepared that plans could change at the last minute. Now, on the 31st, we move into the new year. And the moon will move into Gemini at 8:13 a.m. on December 31st, social sign of Gemini. The moon will be trine Pluto in the air sign of Aquarius. So this is harmonious energy. Pluto has a lot of power, change, other people's money, and rules sex. So there's a lot of social energy there on Wednesday the 31st. Now let's talk about the new year. Now keep in mind this week you're heading to a Cancer full moon. So the full moon is actually on Saturday the 3rd. So it's very emotional. You know, there's a lot of watery planets and we're heading to a full moon, and it's a water full moon. So the emotions are still running very, very high. Now, let's talk about the chart for the new year. December 31st, 11:59 p.m. And, you know, every new year, this is the chart for the new year. This is a kickoff for the new year. And every year, the sun is in Capricorn. And not only is the sun there, but Venus is there and Mars is there. Okay, so we've got kind of these little scrunched up planets together for the new year chart. We've got the sun, Venus on one side, Mars, the planet of action, on the other side, right next to, actually, it's far enough away to not be considered conjunct Pluto. Well, Pluto's kind of close, okay, in the sign of Aquarius. So wherever they are in your chart, they're probably all sitting in the same house, okay? So it'd be very interesting to see what house that is for you. For us in general, when I make a chart for the new year, it all ends up in the fourth house, the house of the home, the house ruled by the moon associated with the sign Cancer. So there's a lot here. There's things about change in the home because Pluto's there. There's action in the home. So this could show up as construction, or for some people, they may be moving. But there's a lot there about change. So it also may have themes of how you nurture yourself and what brings you true satisfaction. Remember, Jupiter is opposite all of that. And Jupiter is in the sign of Cancer. And so there's 4th, 10th house activity, home life, work life, a lot of energy there. Now, the moon's in Gemini, so it's trining Pluto, so it's making a positive aspect. Gemini has to do with communication. Gemini also rules your environment, the people around you, and it's trining Pluto. So you may find that this year brings in new friends. This year may bring in new environments for you, new people around, okay? There may be some changes with work, lots of Capricorn energy. Could be things about working from home, or if you've been working remotely, maybe you're going to go back into the workplace. There's a lot of flip-flops between career and home. Now, the sun is squaring Neptune. Kind of. They're kind of far enough away that it's more squaring Venus. Okay, so some energy there between the two. The real square is going on between Mercury, the planet of communication, at 28 degrees of Sagittarius, squaring Neptune and Saturn in Pisces. So there's going to be a lot of themes. Mercury is the communicator. Remember, it rules our environment, people around us, because it rules the sign Gemini and Virgo. It's hanging out in the 3rd house, its own house of your environment and your community. So I actually see this as really hopeful. Like for myself, I'm looking to meet more like-minded people, right? Spend more time with people that I align with. And so this is a great chart for that. There's a lot here about friendships. There's a lot here about people around you, environment around you. So I see that as a very positive. Uranus, which rules large groups of people, is trining Pluto. So there can be change in friend groups. There can be new people showing up. This is a good thing. Now, what else is jumping out to me? Just the fact that these planets are getting to the end of their sign, that's huge. So Neptune and Saturn getting ready to make that change. Uranus at the late degrees of Taurus, it's going to be heading back into Gemini this year. Jupiter's getting to the later degrees of Cancer. So there's going to be a lot of changes. Mercury is at the late degrees of Sagittarius. So we see the end of signs, the full wisdom of that sign coming up and out as we move into this 1 year. So a lot of emphasis on newness and a lot about healing the old and coming in with the new and finding the right environments for us. So big stuff going on. It's just big. And I hope that some of the retrograde report at the beginning gave you some comfort. And if you haven't listened to that, please go back and listen to the full video where I talk about all the planetary changes that are happening as we end out this year. And again, it's intense, but it gives us hope. It gives us hope that how we feel right now is going to change. How we feel is things are going to start to open up. We're going to start to be able to see more clearly as 2 heavy hitter planets leave Pisces, where they've been for a while, and we move into clarity in Aries. And, we might not like everything that we see, but we'll finally be able to see. And then we can make the decisions that we need to make accordingly. Now, let me just pull a couple more cards for you for these last few days, for New Year's Eve, for anything else that needs to come up regarding the end of the year here. And I don't know why that card was flipped over. That was the Page of Candles was flipped over. Let's put that one there. Page of Candles. Page is young. candles is fire. So this is the Page of Wands traditionally. And she's lighting those candles up there. She can barely reach, and she's reaching up and lighting the candles. So there's something about growth. There's something about going for what you want. Let's see. Let's put a couple more out here. Anything else that we need here for the end of the year? And we have Five of Wands. Five, a number of change. Wands is passion. I often find this card expressing itself as like inner turmoil or inner struggle, but there's like white lilies here, and it almost looks like a path up to those white lilies. And white lilies to me are like such a sign of peace. So I think there's some kind of internal peace and internal peace with the changes that are going on. Young energy here, playful energy with the Page of Candles. And then the Queen of Good Cheer, which I do believe is the Queen of Cups. And she is, opening all her Christmas cards, and she looks like she's drinking some kind of a martini. She's got her crystal ball there, and she's just enjoying. And so good cheer, Queen of Good Cheer, feels like some good vibes. She looks like she's home. She actually is in her kitchen. And a lot of the energy that I saw in the chart for the new year was activity between the home and the work life. Also Jupiter in Cancer, it rules kitchens. And, maybe I'm just feeling a lot of that because I have a kitchen project I want to take on, but I swear the cards are just validating the fact that that is kind of in the air with all that energy in the fourth house, Mars there, Pluto there, bringing in change. And sometimes construction is just the change that you need. Now let's see, we've got the Forest card. It says, it is without question a place of mystery, whispers of power you've forgotten. Let thy strength crawl from beneath the ground and remind you, dear child, you are magic. So the Forest card reminding that you that you are magic as we finish up this 9-year and move into the brand new fresh energy of 2026, a 1 year in numerology. Thanks for joining me.